Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the place where we take some of the most powerful knowledge out there and we really try to extract the core steps that you need to know. It's all about saving you hours of searching and turning all that abstract theory into immediate actionable insight. Today we're doing a really deep focused examination of a topic that is just so central to everything, to learning, to work, to life, memory. We're analyzing some outstanding resources from the English Uncut channel. And what they've done is give us a complete 12-step system. It's designed not just to transform how you remember things, but also it serves as this powerful masterclass in mastering clear, impactful English. Now, let's be honest for a second. Before we dive in and start unlocking these secrets, I want to ask you a really simple question. Have you ever had that horrible moment? You've studied for hours, you feel like you understand everything perfectly, and then right when you need it most, during a test or in a meeting, it all just evaporates. Or maybe you have a clear thought, you walk into the kitchen to grab something, and then you're just standing there, completely blank, wondering what on earth you are doing. If that feeling sounds familiar, that frustration that your brain is somehow letting you down, well, you are in exactly the right place. You're about to discover the exact actionable steps that can upgrade your memory system and really help you remember anything you want forever. So our mission today is to break these steps down really clearly and focus on the powerful English used to describe them. And if you find this valuable, please do us a huge favor. Subscribe to the English Uncut channel and share this with your friends and family. That way they won't miss out on these lessons designed to make them smarter, stronger, and more fluent. And joining me today to guide us through this incredible source material, focusing especially on the clarity and power of the English, is the exceptional instructor, Morgan. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. The resources we're looking at today they're really designed to be a deep, powerful system for the mind. Our mission is to take these 12 steps, which, they're essentially the manual for the human brain, and show you how they're not only the key to building an amazing memory, but also the key to mastering strong, clear, articulate English. We're looking for those exact steps that can unlock the brain and, restore that trust in your own mind.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the foundation. We all know someone who says that, I have a bad memory, or I'm just not good at memorizing things. And that treats memory like it's some fixed thing, a talent you either have or you don't. But the system we're studying today, it immediately challenges that idea in step one.
Yes. And this is probably the most motivating insight right at the beginning. The core concept of step one is that memory is absolutely not a talent.
Not at all.
Not at all. It is purely a skill. And it's a skill that requires training and understanding how the system actually works. So when most people say they have a bad memory, the truth is they have an untrained system. They just never learned the mechanics.
That is such a crucial distinction, isn't it? It just immediately shifts your focus. You're not dealing with some personal flaw that you can't change. You're just dealing with a technical problem that has a solution. If you can just adopt that mindset, my memory isn't broken, my system is. That's so empowering.
Precisely. And the authors use this wonderful, detailed analogy to help us visualize it, the library analogy.
Right.
Think of your brain as this massive library. Every piece of information you learn, a name, a fact, a new English word, it's a book. And when you learn it, you're placing that book on a shelf.
But the mistake, the flaw in the system happens right there, during that placement.
Exactly. If you just absorb the information passively, you're not focusing, you don't label the spine of the book, you don't check it out properly, well, the information just gets misplaced. It's in the library, technically, but you can't access it.
The source uses a great phrase for this, a really descriptive one. It says, it gets lost in the noise. And that just perfectly captures that feeling of information overload, doesn't it?
It's such a practical, fluent piece of English. It gets lost in the noise. It's a beautiful metaphor. It just means that the specific thing you need is, it's just drowned out by everything else coming in, the mental chatter, the notifications, random thoughts. It all just becomes background static and disappears.
And all that chaos leads directly to the difference between short-term and long-term memory. Short-term memory is described as being like a whiteboard.
A whiteboard. It's temporary by nature. You write something on it, a phone number, a quick reminder, but if you don't actively do something to save it, it gets wiped out. Long-term memory, on the other hand, that's your permanent notebook. Once something is successfully moved there, the source says it's saved forever.
So the fundamental mistake is that information just stays on that short-term whiteboard. People cram for exams, they hear a name one time, they read a page really quickly. but they never process it. They don't repeat it. They don't connect it emotionally. They don't visualize it.
Yeah.
So it never makes that journey from the whiteboard to the notebook. It just vanishes.
Mm.
Let's use the exact scenario the source material gives us, because this is just so relatable. You're at a party, you meet someone new, the dialogue is simple. Hi, I'm Jason. You smile, you shake hands, talk for a few minutes, you walk away to get a drink.
Yeah.
Then 5 minutes later, someone asks, hey, what was the name of that guy you were just talking to? And what does your brain do? It goes blank.
Let's just dig into that phrasing for a second for our listeners. Your brain goes blank. This is very common, very fluent English. It just means your mind is suddenly empty of the answer, a complete absence of the data. And why? Because, as the source explains so clearly, your brain heard the name but never processed it. And processing, in this context, it just means creating a deliberate, strong path for that memory. If you passively hear the name, it stays on the whiteboard. But the solution they offer shows intentional processing. So imagine it again. You think, Jason, like Jason Statham, the actor. Then you immediately repeat his name out loud. Nice to meet you, Jason. A few minutes later, maybe you use it again. So Jason, what do you do for work?
So by doing those simple intentional things, focusing, making a connection, repeating, you build a stronger path.
Yeah.
It goes from being a whisper on the whiteboard to being a clearly labeled book on that long-term shelf.
Absolutely. The foundational takeaway from this first step is just so powerful and motivating. Your memory is not broken. It's completely functional. If you're struggling, you just need to upgrade the system.
So we know memory is a system. Now, what's the single biggest leak in that system? What stops information from even getting on the whiteboard to begin with? And that takes us straight to step 2, the attention problem. The brutal truth here is you probably don't have a memory problem. You have an attention problem. You can't remember what you never really noticed.
This is fundamental. It's everything.
Yeah.
Attention is the key that opens the door to memory. If you miss this step, no amount of visualization or tricks later on is going to save you. Just think about it. Your brain is this incredible machine, and it's filtering millions of pieces of information every second. The temperature, the sounds outside, the voice in your ear, and it chooses what to keep and what to discard based entirely on where you place your attention. If you don't give something real attention, your brain just assumes, okay, this is unimportant noise, and it deletes it immediately. It never even gets on the whiteboard.
And this is harder than ever now because, as the source points out, the modern world is actively designed to steal your attention. Everything is optimized for distraction. Social media feeds, constant notifications, this pressure to multitask, endless noise. Technology is training our brains to be permanently fragmented.
Right. And when your attention is split, when you're trying to listen to this deep dive while also scrolling on your phone and planning dinner, the file just never gets fully saved. The data is corrupt from the very first moment.
The source material gives a perfect and kind of painful real-life example of this failure of attention. It's the taxi example. Imagine this. You get out of a taxi after a long day, you're tired, you're already checking your phone, you're thinking about dinner, you pay the driver, and you accidentally leave your bag with your laptop, your wallet, in the back seat. 5 minutes later, the panic hits. You try to remember the car's color, the license plate, anything, and your brain just gives you nothing.
That feeling of your brain giving you nothing is a direct result of a lack of attention. And for our English learners listening, let's analyze the verbs they use to describe this. You saw it, but you didn't look. You heard the driver's voice, but you didn't listen. This is a really profound linguistic distinction. To see or to hear is passive. It's just sensory input. But to look or to listen, that's active. That requires conscious, deliberate focus. In the taxi scenario, you were there physically, but mentally you were absent. You were already 3 steps ahead in your day.
So if the world is designed to steal our attention, what's the most practical defense we have?
The source offers the incredibly simple but effective 5-second rule. If you had just paused for 5 seconds before getting out of that car, looked directly at the number plate and said to yourself, okay, white Honda, plate number 9214. That 5 seconds of real focused attention would have created a strong, instant anchor.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the difference between success and disaster. You have to consciously stop the mental noise, pause, look, listen. It's a command you give your brain. This is important. Save this data now. The key takeaway is absolute. If your mind is not here, your memory won't be either.
Attention is the currency of memory. If you're not paying attention, you're not paying for the memory. Simple as that. Okay, so we've opened the door with focused attention. The information is clean. It's on the short-term whiteboard. The next challenge is, how do we get it from that temporary spot into the permanent notebook?
Yeah.
And this takes us to the science of encoding, starting with step 3.
Step 3 states the core principle of effective encoding. Your brain stores data primarily as images, not as abstract text or audio. And this is where memory moves from being, dry and academic to being creative and fun.
Why is that, though? Why are words boring, but images are alive?
Well, because images contain so much more data. They have color, emotion, shape, movement. They're dynamic. And this is based on millions of years of evolution. Our ancestors had to remember locations, predators, food sources, all of which are visual. Our brains are just hardwired for this. We can prove it with the elephant test. If I say the word ELEPHANT, what pops into your mind? It's not the letters, right? It's a complex visualization. A big gray animal with a long trunk. Your brain just defaults to the image. It's more efficient.
So the trick, then, is to apply that visualization system to things that are naturally abstract, like names or vocabulary. If I meet someone named Lily and just store Lily in the name, that connection is really weak.
Right. But if you turn the name Lily into a memorable image, you create a connection that actually sticks. Maybe you imagine her hair is made of bright white lilies, or she's holding this huge bouquet of them. Now her name is connected to a sensory picture, and your brain goes, oh, that's interesting, that's weird, I should keep that.
And the source really emphasizes that we shouldn't just create simple pictures. We need to make them exaggerated. The funnier, the stranger, the more dramatic, the better. Like if you want to remember the word volcano, don't just picture a boring mountain. Imagine a giant birthday cake erupting with red-hot chocolate lava. Add a sound, a silly smell.
That exaggeration is the key. Your brain holds on to things that are surprising. Memory is emotion. Memory is movement. Memory is created when your brain has a strong reaction like, wow, I've never seen that before. Neutral information gets forgotten. Strange emotional information gets saved.
Okay, let's apply this to that classic challenge, memorizing a list. The sample grocery list is milk, eggs, book, shoes, cat. If you just repeat those 5 words like a robot, you'll forget the middle ones pretty fast.
The memory champion's trick is to convert that list into a single flowing picture story. So let's analyze the descriptive language used here to create that stickiness. The image has to be active and dramatic, you should visualize. A giant angry milk carton is sitting on a pair of oversized red shoes and reading a book. Then, a cat wearing tiny glasses watches from the corner as eggs are falling from the sky like soft white snowflakes.
I love the verbs there. An angry milk carton is reading, a cat wearing glasses watches, eggs are falling.
Yes, these sentences are so clear and visual. They show how English can be used to create a dynamic, unforgettable scene in your mind. Because the image is so exaggerated, because you can see the action, and because it makes you laugh, you won't forget the list. The instruction is clear. Don't just read, see? Animate it in your head.
So building directly on that is step 4, the power of narrative, or the story method. The core idea here is that our brain is wired for narrative, not lists. We love drama, characters, emotion.
And that's exactly why abstract lists fail us. If I give you 10 random words, apple, horse, jacket, candle, ice cream, each item is just floating alone in your short-term memory. They have no links, no feelings, no relationships.
So you'll remember the first few and the last few, and the middle just gets lost.
Immediately.
I get the story method, but isn't it just more work to create some crazy story than to just review a list a few times? What if my story isn't crazy enough?
That's a great question.
Well,
Because it gets to the heart of efficiency. And while creating the story takes a little effort up front, it saves you so much effort later. Because the story provides instant links. You're not creating 10 separate memories. You're creating one memory that links all 10 items together. Your brain is just better at remembering sequence and cause and effect.
Okay, so let's take those 10 items and turn them into that bizarre action story from the source material. The story goes, a giant radioactive apple falls from the sky and hits a horse on the head. The horse screams in pain, runs into a shop, and steals a leather jacket. He lights a candle, but accidentally melts an ice cream cone. The melting ice cream explodes into a toxic green cloud that rains tiny yellow socks. One sock lands on a chair which grows into a tree, and a laughing monkey swings down and gives you a thumbs up.
That is memory liberation. Let's just focus on the dynamic verbs that made that story stick for you. Falls, hits, screams, runs, steals, melts, explodes.
Right, they're not passive at all.
No, they are verbs of action and movement. The movement you create in the story is like permanent glue for the memory. You're not just processing information anymore. You're experiencing a quick, bizarre action film in your head.
And the beauty of it is that the story doesn't have to make sense. In fact, we're told the crazier the better because the brain holds on to surprise, not common sense.
That is the superpower of this method. It takes dry, abstract data and makes it tactile, moving, and emotional, by just wrapping it in a simple narrative. You can use this for anything. Foreign vocabulary, key concepts for a presentation, a list of historical figures. You're hacking your own brain's evolution to make learning easy.
So we've encoded the information using attention, pictures, and stories. But the worst feeling is having learned something brilliantly, only to have it fade away a week later. How do we make sure it stays in that permanent notebook? And that leads us to step 5, the science of retention.
The painful truth that drives step 5 is that one-time learning is fake learning. Cramming for an exam, for example, it doesn't save things permanently. It only stores them on that temporary whiteboard. The brain needs time, space, and structured repetition to really save knowledge forever.
And this brings us to that crucial scientific concept the source mentions, the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. It sounds technical, but what's the practical impact on our daily learning?
Yeah, the Ebbinghaus curve is a real science thing. And what it proves is that the moment you stop learning, you immediately start forgetting. Crucially, the drop-off is fastest and steepest in the first 24 hours, which means if you don't review information pretty quickly, you might lose 80% of your effort in just a day or two.
Wow.
To explain it simply, the source uses the sand analogy. Learning once is like writing in the sand. The wind and waves, the forgetting curve make it fade. Repetition turns that writing into stone carving.
And the method provides a very detailed, very strategic spaced interval schedule. It's not about random review, but about timing. The schedule is learn it once, then review it after 1 hour, then after 1 day, then 2 days, then 4 days, then 1 week, and finally after 2 weeks.
And the reason that time gap gets wider is critical. You have to wait just long enough so that remembering is a bit of a struggle. You have to think, wait, what was that word again? But not so long that it's impossible. That little moment of struggle is the signal to your brain, oh, this is important. I need to save this deeper. You're forcing your brain to work.
Let's use the vocabulary example they gave. The English word serendipity. It means finding something good without even looking for it. A fortunate accident. It's a beautiful word, but it's abstract. If you just learn it once, it'll probably be gone pretty fast. But with spaced repetition, you build what the source calls a relationship with the word. So on day 1, you learn serendipity. An hour later, you write a sentence with it. Day 2, you use it in a conversation. Day 4, you write a short paragraph. Day 14, you teach it to someone else.
I just love the language they use there. They don't say you learned the word, they say you had a relationship with it.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful metaphor for fluency. You're not just meeting a word once, you're integrating it into your life so thoroughly that it belongs to you forever. And the warning is just undeniable. No review equals no memory.
Now we move to step 6, which is maybe the most powerful and human part of memory, emotional connection. The core concept here is that the stronger the emotion, the deeper the memory.
Think about the biggest moments in your life. You might forget what you had for breakfast 3 days ago, but you will never forget the day you felt intense joy or profound fear or crushing humiliation. Why? Because your brain prioritizes feelings, not neutral facts.
So emotion is the engine.
It's the engine of permanent memory. It activates this tiny almond-shaped area in the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala acts like a signal flare, screaming to the rest of the brain. Attention, this might be critical for survival. Store this forever. You could read a boring sentence 10 times and forget it, but if one sentence made you cry or filled you with motivation, you'll remember it for life.
So the key is to be intentional about it. Every time you learn something new, you have to ask yourself, how does this make me feel? Can I connect this to a real experience in my life? Let's look at the history example they give. The date, April 15th, 1912, the day the Titanic sank. If you just memorize that like a robot, it's just a sequence of numbers. It's meaningless, and you'll forget it.
But if you connect to it emotionally, it becomes permanently anchored. You read about the human tragedy, how 1,500 people died, how the musicians kept playing, how mothers held their children, how lovers whispered goodbye, the bravery, the self-sacrifice. Suddenly, April 15th, 1912 isn't just a date, it's a tragedy, a reminder of love, loss, and bravery. And look at the language there. Whispered goodbye, bravery, loss. These are powerful, evocative words. You'll never forget that date because now you feel it.
And this applies perfectly to English vocabulary. Don't just learn the definition, feel the word. The source uses the example abandon, which means to leave completely.
But if you want the word abandon to really live inside you, you have to connect it to a strong personal memory. Maybe you remember the pain of someone leaving you, or the disappointment of giving up on a dream. Now, the word is charged with personal experience. It's not abstract anymore. It's part of your emotional history, and it's unforgettable.
But what about topics that are just, boring,
Yeah.
like a math formula. The source has a clever trick for this.
Yeah.
Fake emotion.
Yes, the fake emotion trick is brilliant. If you have to learn something totally abstract, like the area of a triangle, you just force a ridiculous emotional scenario onto it. Imagine the triangle is a slice of pizza. You are incredibly hungry. But someone tells you that, by formula, you only get half of that slice. The source says that the pain of eating only half a slice of pizza will make you remember that half.
That's amazing.
Your brain doesn't really distinguish between real emotion and exaggerated emotion. It just cares that an emotion was there. When you do this, every lesson starts to feel alive, and what is alive never dies.
So far, we've focused on input and retention. Now let's shift to the third phase, how we actively solidify and retrieve that knowledge, turning learned concepts into usable automatic skills. And we'll start with the ultimate act of mastery.
Teaching.
Step 7. This is one of the most underrated memory secrets, and it's encapsulated in this beautiful concept. Teaching is remembering twice.
How does that work? How does teaching double the retention? Because it forces you to move from being a passive receiver to being the creator, the master of that knowledge. When you teach, you're forced to do 3 critical mental tasks at once. First, you have to recall the knowledge clearly from scratch. Second, you have to organize it logically so it makes sense to someone else. And third, you have to say it in your own words.
That process of rebuilding it.
That process of rebuilding it from the inside out is what makes it permanent. Anything you can successfully rebuild, you will never forget.
Let's use the example of the English word procrastinate, which means to delay doing something you know you should do. If you just read the definition and walk away, your brain's probably going to delete it within 48 hours. But if you turn around and teach it, the knowledge becomes permanent, and the teaching dialogue can be simple. Hey, do you know the word procrastinate? It means when we keep delaying things we should do, like homework. For example, I always procrastinate doing the dishes.
In that simple explanation, you've done so much more than just learn the definition. You didn't just learn procrastinate, you used it, shared it, taught it. That effort is what signals to your brain that this is high-value data. And crucially, you don't need a class of students to do this. You can just explain it to a friend, or speak it out loud to yourself in the mirror, record a voice note. Just activate that teacher mode in your brain.
So teaching isn't the end of learning. Teaching is the proof of learning. Okay, now let's look at another critical method for solidification. Step 10. It's simple, but so often ignored today. Write things down. The source calls writing the save button of the brain.
This step is all about making the learning physical and multisensory. The source asks why people forget what they read or hear, but they rarely forget what they write. And the answer is that writing by hand activates your brain in a unique way that typing just can't match.
It's slower.
It slows your thinking down drastically. It forces you to organize. It creates this strong physical and mental connection. When you just hear information, your brain is passive. Okay, that sounds nice. But when you write it with your own hand, your brain becomes active. It says, wait, this is serious. I need to structure this. And that's where the retention starts.
And that distinction between typing and writing is so critical. Typing is fast, it's automated. But writing by hand is real.
Okay.
Let's look at the structure they provide for writing down a new English word. Resilience. It means the ability to recover quickly after difficulties. The process in your notebook should be word, resilience, meaning the ability to bounce back after tough times. Sentence. After losing his job, his resilience helped him find a new path. And then personal connection. I want to become more resilient in my life too.
I want to highlight that definition they used. Ability to bounce back. That is practical, clear English that makes the abstract noun resilience instantly relatable. And by forcing yourself to write the meaning, a sentence, and that personal connection, the word is no longer just a definition. It becomes a story, a feeling, and a part of your life. You've physically written it into your brain's architecture.
Now we get to step 11, which addresses the biggest mistake almost every learner makes. Confusing understanding with remembering. This is why we have to practice active recall. The core concept is simple. You have to test yourself when the answer is not in front of you. No looking, no cheating, no copying.
Understanding is passive recognition. You read something and you think, yeah, I know that. But the real test, the only thing that matters, is this. Can you retrieve that information when the book is closed? If the answer is no, then that knowledge isn't truly yours yet.
So what's a crisp definition of active recall?
It's the process of retrieving information from scratch, with no external clues. It means turning a question into an answer using only the power and effort of your own mind. It is the most honest memory method in the world.
The source uses a great gym analogy to explain it. Reading or reviewing your notes is like watching a fitness instructor lift heavy weights. It looks good, but you aren't getting stronger. Active recall is you lifting the weight, the struggle you feel when you can't quite remember. That's exactly where the real learning happens. Let's use the quote they provide for practice. Consistency is more important than intensity. You read it, you understand it. Now you test it. You cover the sentence. You ask yourself, what was that quote? What does it mean? Can I say it in my own words?
And maybe at first you only remember intensity is not important. That struggle is crucial feedback. Your brain is trying, it's working, it's strengthening. You look back, correct yourself, cover it again, and try again. Do that, and the memory becomes, as the source calls it, unshakable. The key verbs are retrieve, rebuild, recall, and the principle is non-negotiable. Retrieval builds retention.
We've covered input, encoding, and solidification. Now let's loop back to the systems that protect and maximize memory. And we start with the legendary method in Step 8.
Step 8 introduces the mind palace, a technique used by ancient Greek orators and modern memory champions. The core concept is that the brain naturally remembers places better than abstract facts because places can anchor information.
Why is that? Why are we so much better at remembering locations?
Well, your brain is fundamentally hardwired for spatial memory.
Yeah.
Our evolutionary ancestors had to navigate vast territories to survive. Remembering where the water was, where the danger was, that was life and death. So your brain prioritizes it. We're hacking millions of years of evolution when we turn facts into furniture inside a mental space.
So you start by choosing a location you know perfectly, your home, your school.
Yes, and you visualize it clearly like a mental video game. You define fixed stations, the front door, the couch, the kitchen table, and so on.
And then we use those earlier steps. We assign the facts we want to remember to each location using strange, dramatic pictures. Let's use the example of memorizing the planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. We map them to the rooms of a house with strange images. At the front door, you see a metal pan on fire. That's Mercury, hot and close to the sun. In the living room, a huge perfume bottle sprays pink fog. Venus, goddess of beauty. In the kitchen, a spinning, wet globe is in the sink. That's Earth. In the bedroom, your bed is covered in red dust from Mars. On the balcony, a giant yellow balloon is bouncing around, Jupiter. On the stairs, every pole has a shiny ring around it, Saturn. On the terrace, an ice cube is shivering on a chair, Uranus. And at the gate, blue ocean water splashes your feet, Neptune.
Now, to recall the planets, you don't recall a boring list. You close your eyes, you walk through your mental hallway, and you retrieve the strange story at each spot. The brain loves this. It uses locations you already know and adds visual stories inside those spaces, making the memory so much stickier.
Now we come to Step 9, which is about leveraging a secret scientific fact about sleep. The last 10 minutes before you fall asleep are absolutely critical.
Yes. This is known as memory consolidation, and it's crucial for deep learning. When you sleep, your brain is highly active. It's cleaning, organizing, and saving everything it decided was important from the day. It's like a librarian.
So how does the librarian decide which memories to keep and which to throw out?
It looks for signals, and the clearest signal that a memory is important comes from repetition, emotion, and timing. If you review something right before bed, you send your brain a prioritized signal. Attention, librarian. This is the most recent and therefore high priority. Save this, please.
And the danger is our modern routine. You study hard, but before bed, you spend an hour scrolling Instagram and watching funny videos.
Your brain correctly assumes those videos are the most recent, most emotionally charged, and therefore the most important. The important English words you learned hours ago get thrown out with the mental trash.
So the fix is a simple protective ritual. Turn off all distractions. Take just 5 minutes and quietly review the key points you learned. Whisper them, use them in sentences, feel proud of your learning, then go to sleep.
It's a simple ritual that takes almost no time, but it radically improves memory. It's not just about memory, it's about discipline and even sleep quality. It's the hidden weapon of the memory masters.
And we finish with Step 12, which is about protecting the entire system. Protect your mind from overload. The core concept is that a crowded brain can't remember anything. The mind is designed to carry what matters, but today it's just overloaded, full of noise, full of junk.
You're not forgetting because your brain is weak. You're forgetting because your mind is cluttered and exhausted. Think of your brain like a garden, not a dump. If weeds, useless notifications, gossip, noise grow wild, they will inevitably choke the flowers, your valuable knowledge and focus.
Let's use that final, relatable scenario. The simple mental grocery list. You need milk, bread, apples, soap, onions. you're confident you'll remember. But after making the list, you check your phone, scroll notifications, watch videos. By the time you get to the store, your mind goes blank. You remember milk and apples, but forget the onions and soap. The problem isn't intelligence. It's that the important list was buried alive under a mental mountain of meaningless content.
This is where we need strict boundaries. The habits recommended here are essential for modern mental survival. Start your day in silence before you touch your phone. Limit useless information. Use journaling to empty your head. And practice digital fasting. Take dedicated blocks of time with no phone, no screen.
The definitive takeaway and the requirement for mental survival is this. You cannot have clarity, power, focus, or purpose if your brain is drowning in distraction. This is the final filter. That was an expansive and incredibly detailed deep dive into the 12 proven steps to boost your memory, all provided by the experts at English Uncut. We cover the foundations, memory is a skill, step 1, and the need for attention, step 2. We learned how to encode information using powerful pictures, step 3, and unforgettable stories, step 4. We cemented retention through spaced repetition, step 5, and emotional connection, step 6. We learned to solidify knowledge by teaching it, step 7, writing it down, step 10, and actively recalling it, step 11. And finally, we built protection using the Mind Palace, step 8, pre-sleep review, step 9, and protecting our focus, step 12.
But remember this critical point. Just knowing these steps is not enough. The source insists you must live them, practice them, use them. Real powerful memory is built through consistent, intentional daily decisions. Are you making space for what matters? Are you forcing retrieval?
And as we said at the beginning, this entire deep dive was also a masterclass in awakening your mind's power through English. Every clear sentence, every powerful verb like explodes or swings, every analogy like getting lost in the noise. It was all a tool to help you grow in focus, clarity, and English understanding.
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, we know that your brain naturally discards what is neutral, boring, and unstructured. So this raises an important question for you, the listener, to mull over. What is one boring, abstract piece of information, a historical date, a technical term, that you could transform today using exaggerated emotion and narrative? Take that one boring fact and turn it into a crazy, moving story, and make sure it lasts forever in your permanent notebook.
That is an excellent challenge. Your mind is ready. If you love this deep dive and want more content that makes you smarter, stronger, and more fluent, then make sure you subscribe and share the English Uncut channel. That way you won't miss a single lesson. Until next time, keep diving deep into what matters.